Hey, Mike Vrabel got out of that Arizona hot tub tripping with irony until now. Patriots owner Robert Kraft got involved in making the first threesome that I had no intention of ever watching. The NIL geniuses have discovered giving mounds of untraceable cash to teenagers is even worse than we thought. They're amazing. And a journeyman boxer flipped his lid, became a viral sensation and a contender for the heavyweight title. We'll explain after further review. It's Angry Old Guys talking sports and stuff. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Watson, and welcome to the show. It's high on opinion and light on the research. I think you know the guys on either side of me. It's Tom Catlin and the Professor Pete Weitzner, as I like to call them, the Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird of After Further Review. Yeah, that's a 2-for-1. Let me ask you guys a question. Who's more unlikable in America? Is it Megan Rapinoe? Is it Rosie O'Donnell? Is it any of the cows on The View? Is it any member of Congress? Or is it Anthony Fauci? Who's the most unlikable American in that group? The answer is E, all of the above.
I like them all.
Did Rosie
Like the
come
members of
back?
Congress, Tommy?
No, yeah, scratch the members of Congress.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like
and
the
of
others.
course-
Come on.
We're off to a horse shit start.
And again, for like the 16th week in a row, no applause. It's amazing.
Little music mixed with the applause.
From now on, I'm just going to have a card that just says it. It's for you, for goodness sake. Wow. All right, let's get right to it. We do the disclaimer every week because my wife still has a fruitful career, and thank goodness, otherwise I'd be living in this rental forever. And so she asked me, she says, can you please let people know that whatever is coming out of that poi hole is not from us, it's from you and your demented mind. So we do the disclaimer every week, and it goes like this. The views expressed by the host on this podcast are mine alone and don't reflect the views or beliefs of my wife and children, who are decent and honorable people who also suffer my existence. Signed, Watty's wife. That is not Watty's wife. Every week, Tommy puts in an avatar to represent my wife. That is either Diana Rossini, formerly of The Athletic, or that's a very masculine Ralph Macchio. I'm sure they look exactly the same to me.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah. So Rossini, if she's holding a microphone now, it's not plugged in anymore. We won't be seeing her for a long time. By the way, Peter, did we find out where the private investigator pictures?
No.
Was he hired by Rossini's suspicious husband, who's the VP of Shake Shack? Did we ever find that out? I mean, we were chatting about it last time.
Well, that is the suspicion, which just tells you there are more legs to a, you know, the saying, the story has legs. This is a centipede. Even at this day, as we record it, there were like new photos, new angles.
Yep.
There's more to come. And that will be one of the things, because there's all kinds. It's not just the photos from Sedona. There's all kinds of photos now going back to where they were at a bar in Tribeca. Yeah. So that's more to come. This is like the Tiger Woods story. We're on the back nine almost.
Well, the New York Post is just going to milk this thing like a dairy cow as long as they can, because people
Here's
love
my hero in this story. Yep, the oldest paper in the country, the New York Post. What do you know? They bust the story.
There's no sympathetic figures in this. It's like that movie you loved, Uncut Gems. I watched, and I'm like, I'm rooting for all of them to die at the end. You're like, what a great movie, because you're a New Yorker and you love New York characters. I'm from the West Coast. I watched it and I'm like, I hate all of these people and I just want them all to die so this movie can end. But this is how it is now. There's nobody in this that I like. Who am I rooting for in this whole thing?
Well, certainly not the New York Times. ESPN is now getting very dirty. They used to employ her. They tried to cover the story.
Of course they did.
Everyone with the New England Patriots, Diana Rossini. I mean, everyone. the New York Post shines. They broke the story. They keep coming at it with more. And like I said, the oldest paper in the country. And they're one of the few, I think, that they're, of course, they're a tabloid in the image or whatever of Murdoch's British tabloids. But they do, I think they still do great journalism. Yes, there's Page Six, which is a hoot, great headlines. God bless the New York Post. They broke this story, and it's moving. God, it moved. The NFL doesn't love this. They moved the draft to secondary.
Yes. So listen, the Post has the best headlines this side of the Babylon Bee of any media organization in the history of the medium. I mean, I just want to read the headlines, and that's all you need. Whenever I was in New York, I would always, you got it. It'd be on the newsstand, and you'd have to stop and read and start laughing. It was great. It was great. All right. So that, of course, is already our first story. So I was thinking about starting a GoFundMe for Mike Vrabel because, as it turns out, he's not a liar and a cheater, but he's another celebrity victim of sex addiction. So right away turns himself into a victim. And his muse, Diana Rossini, she was stripped of her career, her reputation, and her family. But Vrabel, he snuck off like Carl Spackler, remember the groundskeeper in Caddyshack, played by Bill Murray, after he blows up the golf course trying to kill the gopher, and he looks around and just drops it and sneaks off into the woods. That's what Vrabel did. And what's amazing, Pete, is for 3 days it worked. Everybody let him go. They're like, well, he's a football coach, and we don't expect much from those mouth breathers. But wait a minute, the same standard beyond the reporting of Rossini, married, kids, cheating, then lying about it. I mean, this story had it all. And Vrabel is just as guilty as she is. And then it was hilarious to watch all the PR people come in and try to control it and tamp down the fire. So what did they do first? He had a pointless press conference where he said nothing. He used no names and took no responsibility for anything, but apologized. Nobody knew for what. If you didn't know the story, you said, what is this guy talking about? And the NFL.
I have to be better. What does that mean?
Yeah, the NFL tried to lead block by not investigating. They said it's a Patriot situation. So then the Patriots said they held some candid conversations in the locker room, I bet. What do you think the players wanted to know about Diana Rossini? And then Mike finally, when nothing else would work, he got all pouty-lipped when sharing the confession that I had some hard conversations with my wife. Really? Was it Mercedes or Range Rover? Was that the conversation? Because she apparently is still living in the same abode, didn't run on him. So she's cashing out now. Now she's in charge of finances because she'd take him to the cleaners and ruin his career if she wanted to. But once again, Tommy, you lived in Boston. Once again, here goes a scandal, lying, cover-up, and you trace it right back to the Patriots. Why? Where are all the bodies in Foxborough, Tommy? Why is it always Boston? What?
I was with the Sox. I know nothing about the Patriots.
It's the most joyless city in America. It was the most racist city in America. It probably still is. They have the worst accent in America.
I'm getting the heck out of here.
That little bandbox that they say is romantic. You ever been to Fenway? It's a urinal. Wrigley's way better than Fenway.
I have a good Fenway urinal story.
Anyway,
I do a good Fenway urinal story. So when they
Boston tourism,
when they refurbished Fenway Park, the dugout had a urinal down the steps, and like 2 steps down the hallway, there was a urinal there on the wall, and you could just go from the dugout right there and get back into the game quickly. When they tore out the dugout, that urinal was connected to nothing. It was connected to underground. So when you say Fenway is a urinal, there's some truth. I love Fenway Park.
I worked there many times, and it's got great history and all that. But you go to Wrigley. Wrigley's got a carnival atmosphere, and everybody's in a good mood and having a good time. Nobody really cares about the baseball, and Fenway's exactly the opposite. Everyone is living and dying on whether the Red Sox win and how they win. And even if they do win, well, it's all going to come crashing down tomorrow. What's the point? Let's go throw ourselves in the Charles. God, what a bunch of unhappy people. Goodness. No wonder they put cheers there. Everybody needed a drink.
You kind of raise a good point that really hasn't been discussed too much in this, which Jim has and Tommy has been discussed by everybody, and or not beyond sports. TMZ's got a story on it every hour. Is that would this even be a story? Certainly not to this level. If it had been the Arizona Cardinals, and who is the Arizona Cardinals?
Right.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I mean, but of course, he's the Patriots head coach, and they went to the Super Bowl. Bad, either bad or good timing. Probably good timing for him makes it less likely that he'll be fired.
Yeah, well, listen,
Right?
no, he won't. He won't because he's a winner. Why would you
Right.
do that? You're talking about billions of dollars. They don't care what he does. That doesn't affect them. They could care less. But so now he has thrown himself on his own sword and he has made the ultimate sacrifice. He has said, I won't be around for day 3 of the draft because I'm going to spend the weekend with my family. Are you kidding me? Dude, the guys who get drafted in round 3 aren't around for day 3 of the draft. Nobody's
true.
watching that. It might as well be on C-SPAN. Who cares at that point? Really, after about the first 20 picks, the rating falls off. The only people still watching it are losers sitting at home with their pants around their ankles, picking their fantasy teams for the upcoming fall because they don't have a girl in their lives. So, I mean, I'll bypass it. I'll do a flyby and check the top 5, and then I'll say, oh, that's right, I forgot. I don't care. And it's not going to matter for 9 months anyway. So I could care less. But so he says that. And then he says, when that didn't satiate the internet because they came for him, he said, I'm getting counseling. I'm getting counseling. Well, Mike, let me save you some money. Dr. Watson is in. I do play a doctor on TV. Mike, here's the counseling. Stop stooping reporters. There's your counseling. Oh, I'm sex addicted. Who isn't?
So Jim, let me put it to you, who's been is in the game for 30 at the most intimate high levels. When the Tiger Woods thing broke in 2009, all right, a little communications wasn't quite as, but not too far away. I remember asking my friend who worked for CBS Sports, who worked the Masters, worked a hole at the Masters for like 20 years. So, knew Tiger, interviewed him, probably had drinks with Tiger. I said, nobody knew? He goes, Pete, honestly. And I just couldn't believe it. Not that many women over that period of time. So again, I say, then they're out now. You've seen the new photos, Tribeca in 2020. They're not hiding it. Yeah, it was after hours, but they're not like, these aren't clandestine meetings at the Motel 6. And there's others. Nobody knew? Come on.
You're telling me
Like
that they're in this hotel.
Yeah.
They're in this hotel in Sedona, which is $2,500 a night, just a few hours away from the NFL meetings, that there's nobody in that hotel who recognizes Mike Vrabel or Diana Rossetti and wonders why they're in a hot tub together in the daytime. Well, one guy did, and he had a camera. So, yeah, it's one of those open secrets, and don't even for a second believe that nobody knew what Tiger was doing. Eldrick could do whatever he wanted because he was putting money in everybody's back pocket. They freaking hate him. They all hate him. He has like 3 friends, but if you notice, 5 years later, he'll have 3 different friends. No one stays with that guy because he's a phony. And when it comes down to it, he's not going to have your back. And he asks you to carry too much water for him and you get pulled under. So I don't believe that for a second, because when it broke, then a bunch of people started saying, well, there were rumors and we did see him. And then Barkley knew and Jordan knew. If they know, they're telling somebody, and everybody knows.
Right.
I worked in pro sports for 40 years. There are no secrets. Everybody knows because somebody knows. If one person knows, it's out. So, yeah, tell that Tiger story walking. That's just more PR crap. How about, did you know he was still on pills? Because I did. You know how? He has a crash every 18 months. I mean, it's unbelievable.
So with
Every time you
respect,
turn around, that guy's making a major mistake. So,
Jim, Tommy,
and
would
when
you
he comes
agree?
back, hey, when he comes back from Switzerland, Pete, he's still going to be on pills.
He'll still, I mean, if he's past 50, he'll still have the same moral character, which
Well, he's
no
got to take him
psychology,
for
which
pain
is
management. He's going to take it for pain management. And now you got to say, well, don't take two, take one. Well, nobody's around because he's run everybody out of his life. So, except for Vanessa Trump. She says she loves him. All right. So,
well,
whatever. He's going to be on him anyway. But we digress because, every week Tommy tricks me into ripping Eldrick. I don't want to talk about it.
and we did drop him from the rundown because there's so much with this Rabel thing. Jim, Tommy, would you
Yeah.
agree? Right, shame on both of them. Let Hughes without, but two married people with kids going on a long time. Shame on both of them. But even the greater transgression is right when it came out, the lie. I mean, to me,
Right.
if I'm his players, I mean, I think, don't you think? I think that's even worse. Oh, there were others. So now if there were other people, and by the way, if there were other people, what do you think those people were doing there? Because I
There's
think
no other
of,
people.
I don't know,
We,
Ted Kennedy at Chappaquiddick, right? With Mary Jo Kopechne. And
Good
there were
Lord.
5 other couples, 5 married men with women in their 20s. I think they were called the Boiler Room Girls, and they were all married. So if there were other couples, and maybe there were, we'll never know about it, because what were they doing? So to me, that he's a cheater, she's a bad people. But this makes it almost worth playing us all for fools. I have no sympathy for either of them.
of
She
course
should have
not.
lost
And
her
then
job and
And then she did. And it took 48 hours of her saying, no, 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 it was totally innocent. Okay, I resign. So look, she at one point said, I'm facing the music. I got to get this over with. No one's buying this crap. She tried. She brought in her crisis counselors. They all tried to stop things and cap it and keep her career. She was lying to everybody. But listen, Pete, cheaters are liars, just like drug dealers are money launderers. It goes hand in hand. If you're a cheater, lying, it just comes naturally. That's the whole point. That's the thrill. It's not just the sex. It's I get to lie about it. So I get to look in your face and lie to you and say, it's not happening. And see if I can BS you into believing it. That's what they were getting off on. They're both liars and they're both cheaters. They go together like ham and eggs. In this case, the ham was in the eggs. I call it the Sedona omelet.
well, and spare me the gender thing. They're both bad. Yeah, does he have a little more power because he's an NFL head coach? She had a lot of power. She's like the investigative reporter now for The Athletic. She had plenty of power. And what's equally, Tim, you know the old saying, Tommy, the only thing you need to fix a game in the NFL is a head coach and a quarterback. I'm not saying they were fixing games, but now everybody's looking at these stories she ran, going back to when he was with the Titans. Story about Julio Jones, where she tried to say, oh, Atlanta's getting a #1 pick. What scares other teams away? What do you know? Vrabel's Titans get him a year later for a 2nd-round pick. And that same thing with the A.J. Brown thing. It's slimy. It's not. This is not felonious. This is not like a Rico thing. But it's bad. It's slimy. And why do you think Robert Kraft got involved? Because his team's been slimy forever. He's a great owner.
That's right.
They win. I don't think this should all overshadow what Brady did. All those great players, Brewski, all those players. But it's one more thing that, I don't know, could keep Kraft out of the Hall of Fame. So I don't blame him.
You know what?
People try to kill
Yeah,
stories.
if they did it to Belichick, they can do it to Kraft. And I didn't even know that he was snorkeling in the bottom of that hot tub because he got involved in this pretty quickly. And
he may have been one of the couples.
Pete, after the New York Post informed Vrabel of the pictures, the New York Post, to their credit, said, "We're going to give you time to answer before we bring him out," because they knew the story was an evergreen. You could run this. In fact, the closer to the draft, the more eyeballs it's going to get, the more excitement, the more legs, right? So they said, Mike, we have these pictures. How do you respond? And he said, I need some time. You know what he needed the time for? And the Post knew what he was doing. He called Daddy. He called daddy and said, I got in trouble. Can you bail me out? So Kraft, of course, he wants him. He just took him to the Super Bowl. He's a good coach. I've always liked Mike Vrabel. Not anymore, but I always did. I always thought he was a pretty decent guy. We've run sound bites from him on this thing. And when he calls Kraft says, let me work the phones and see what I can do. But Kraft doesn't have that anymore. Yeah, he doesn't have those contacts anymore. He doesn't own the police commissioner and the mayor. He can't, outside of Foxborough, I mean, he's got nothing. So he couldn't help him out at all.
This reminds me of the Harvey Weinstein stories, which were broken by the National Enquirer, which were
very good.
The phrase in journalism, the practice is called catch and kill. You have this story, and for a certain amount of money, you will kill the story.
Buy it,
but that's what
and nobody else has
that is not the New York Post. That the New York Post, to their credit, did not kill the story. They were going to run the story. They're a journalistic enterprise. But I don't blame Kraft. Not only is he trying to get in the Hall of Fame, this is his prized asset. This is not appreciating it in value. It's depreciating it.
Listen, I'll give him enough slack in the leash that he made some calls to see if it was true and see, do we have to run this story, right? You're an NFL owner. You got power somewhere. You get to somebody, and maybe he got to Adam Scheffler, right? So the NFL report.
Schefter the story about AJ Brown.
Right. That's right.
Nobody else
that day, as they call it, that day when the story broke, Shefty put out 3 tweets, and none of them were about this story. They were all AJ Brown related.
Where did those
look over here? Look over here, right? It was a total distraction, and they really thought that was going to help. Like at that point, they were just flailing. Now they're Nixon, right? Trying to go through the tapes. Like it's over now. The cover-up's going to be worse. If Rossini and Vrabel had come out immediately and said, you know what, we always had a good working relationship. We allowed it to get carried. We got carried away. It went beyond what we wanted. We shouldn't have done it. We disrespected our families, and we sullied our professions, and we apologize. This would have lasted 2 days, and now we'd be talking about the draft, right? But they didn't do it that way. And it's funny because look at all the things, and I was ripping Boston before, and here's why. This is just the Patriots. Spygate, Deflategate, Massagegate. Remember when poor Robert, who's a billionaire, has to get on a private jet and fly down to some sleazy strip mall in Miami to get a taffy pull for $50? Like, he's a billionaire. Can we not get this guy some quality ass? I said the same thing with Clinton. We got to keep these people happy. This poor guy had to go 4 states down to get somebody to give him a 5-knuckle shuffle. What in the world is going on? Like, Tommy,
I want one more. I want one more term for 5-knuckle shuffle, taffy pull. What else you got in the arsenal?
These are all clinical terms, Tom. I don't want to be graphic about things, but Jim, you remember that whole thing? Like I haven't forgotten that, Bobby Kraft. Like, what do you think? All of a sudden you're back on Mount Rushmore. We know who you are. I feel sorry for the guy, but that's your legacy, brother. That's going to be in the first paragraph when you go down. All of us. You can never live down your worst day, and you can't promote your best day. You don't get to choose. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking that's where this is headed. One of the places. So there's a word from one of the Patriots spokesholes came out and said, you may not hear, this is all, as we're recording this on Thursday night, first night of the draft. This came out in the last few hours. They said, you may not hear from Mike Vrabel until the end of May. Why? There's more to come. And the more to come in context is, this is the next Deflategate, the next Spygate. It's more the cabal of Vrabel, and who knows who put him up to it. Certainly now, he was only with the Patriots a couple of years. He was with the Titans. Put him up. It's more the cabal. Like, we can manipulate the NFL, manipulate the game. You you do these stories. So it's not just a salacious. It's more than that.
I listen, for a long time, we all liked Robert Kraft and those ridiculous blue shirts with the white collar, like he's in a barbershop quartet in the 20s in Skokie. But he's still rocking them. That's fine. He's an old man. But listen, I put him in a sports hall of fame and then a wider public hall of fame with these people. Liars and cheaters who wagged their finger at us and tried to gaslight us. Said, how dare you? How dare you? And then at the very end said, oh, okay, you were right. Am I still okay? Lance Armstrong, Jesse Smollett, Juicy, Bill Clinton, Brian Williams, Ryan Lochte, Millie Vanilli, and your favorite, Eldrick Woods. All people who told us they were one way, then we caught them, they lied about it, and yelled at us and scolded us for knowing the truth about them and kept trying to gaslight us over and over, and then come out and say, oh, well, now you can't be mad at me because I'm mad at myself and I'm a victim, but I'm going to get counseling, right? Oh, don't put me in jail. Don't throw me out of the game. Don't make me irrelevant. I'm a victim. I'm a sex addict. I'm a drug addict. I have all kinds of problems. Feel sorry for me. So now, if you've taken everything else from me, you have the audacity to ask me for my sympathy. Oh, please. How about a knee to the groin instead? That's what I got for you.
All right. Next.
I'd like to hear, and we're going to hear, but certainly we're going to see microphones put in front of, not that they're in any way culpable, Tom Brady. They're invested in the Patriot legacy, right?
Right.
Gronk's got to have some comments.
Next week or two, that's going to happen. So, yeah. And then, by the way, one more egg, an egg to also. We got after, which I love, the New York Times, which owns the Athletic, which first tried to like Vrabel and Racine. Oh, there's nothing to see here, and then obviously there's plenty to see here.
Yeah, they wanted it to go away, and it didn't go away. So then they had to fire her. Yep.
ESPN didn't report the story for the first couple of weeks. But by the way, they also tried to bury the Tiger Woods story for many reasons. Woke, invested in the PGA. Same thing here. ESPN is the NFL. They own the NFL network. They just in the last day or two, they're now reporting. But
Tommy's breaking out his Jets helmet again. The Jets helmet gets more camera
There's
time than
another
I
winner,
do.
Tommy and his Jets. I think you might finally beat the Patriots now.
All right.
No.
All right. Let's.
Who did you draft? By the way, Tim, Tommy, who did you Jets draft tonight?
Did not see. I recorded it because I really like watching the first hour or two. I can tell that.
Who did they get with the number 2 pick?
Don't look. Don't tell me.
Jim,
Why? It's a bunch of
show along,
19-year-old newly minted millionaires in pimp suits.
Well, the NFL, a player can make a difference in his first year. It's not Major League Baseball where they go to the minors for 6 years.
I haven't even looked at it either, Pete. Did Mendoza go first?
Mendoza went first. Love him. The Jets
To the Raiders?
drafted David Bailey, edge rusher from Texas Tech. Viewed as elite.
Yeah.
There you go.
Texas Tech was good last year, right? Really.
Edge rusher. They needed one.
All right. That's a good pick.
All right. Wow, the thrill is the NFL draft.
Jets.
Good God.
Who's your quarterback,
All right,
Tommy?
let's move on.
The Raiders reject.
So one of my favorite pinatas on this show is NIL and now paying college athletes, which I've got off before on this. You guys have pulled the string. You poked the bear, and I went off, and I may again here in this segment. So now the new thing with NIL, because they actually, if nobody knows this, there was actually a salary cap, for a better term. Nobody was supposed to spend more than $20.5 million. And Steve Sarkisian, the head coach of Texas, said, well, who's counting the money? Who's checking receipts? And who's enforcing this? He said, why would anybody do it? And then the pinnacle of this game, when Lane Kiffin shows up at LSU and they're just chucking money at people like they're in a strip club in Vegas, and somebody said something about the salary cap, and Kiffin laughed. He laughed out loud and said, yeah, the salary cap. So now it's just a complete it's a Travis Sham mockery is what it is. And and so now what they're trying to do is there's all this dirty money, and instead of getting a hold of it and trying to calm things down and at least begin to plug the dike, they decided to just rename it. So now players can do appearances for media, and it doesn't count as money coming from the school, even though the media covers the school. And in some cases, that media outlet is owned by a donor from the school or a graduate of the school or the biggest station in town where that school plays. I mean, it's just so murky and opaque and gross and dirty. It's just foggy. I just want to shower reading this. Like, they've made a complete mess of this whole freaking thing. And now they're going to try to rename it all. It's amazing. If I was watching a documentary on the Old West and how saloons would make their own whiskey, and they would just name it whatever was the biggest whiskey at the time. And there were no rules against that. It wasn't until 1898 when the government came in and said, okay, you can't just name it after another brand. Guys were making it. They were making it have turpentine and tobacco juice and peeing in the bucket and watering it down and selling it. And that's where the term rot gut comes from. So that's all this is. This is rot gut. They're trying to tell people we lost complete control over it. But, oh, wait, it's not as dirty as you think because this is a separate entity. Oh, is that right? The car dealer in Lincoln is paying the quarterback, has nothing to do with the University of Nebraska. By the way, the guy who owns all the car dealerships has a luxury box in the 50-yard line right next to the president of the university. I'm using Nebraska in a hypothetical here. I don't know if any of that's true, but I'm saying this exists at every university. There's always a fat cat. There's one down wearing a houndstooth coat in Tuscaloosa. There's one in the swamp. There's certainly one in Baton Rouge. Maybe out on the West Coast. You can't find them because they don't go to the games. But there's one of these guys at every school, and they're just funneling money to these guys. Am I the only one who thinks this is hysterical? Like, hey, this big dirty pile of money, we're going to call it, it's our charitable donation for a kids camp in the Adirondacks. Like, what a joke. It's dirty money. You're funneling it. You're buying talent. And these kids are jumping schools like crazy. Jump in, Peter. I've had enough of the whole thing.
Well, let me first say your 1890s reference got me thinking. This weekend, my girlfriend had never seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So we watched that set in the 1890s based on a true story. And all I'm thinking,
George Roy Hill.
I'm E.A. Harriman from the Santa Fe. I work for E.A. Harriman. But there were no rules. There were no laws, right? Unless a posse gunned you down and then you were dead.
That was the guy in the mail car who wouldn't open the door for Butch, and they had to blow it. Hey, and then Redford has the great line when they explode the rail car. All they want to do is open the door so they get to the safe and they get the money out. But they explode the rail car. The safe is blown to bits, and money is raining down. And Sundance looks over and goes, "Think you used enough dynamite there, Butch?"
The other great line is, "What are you crazy?
So
the
great.
fall's gonna kill you."
Yeah, I can't swim. It's like, what are you nuts? The fall will probably kill you.
What?
Great movie.
What horse? You have pointed out many times on this show. These athletes were compensated before that court ruling that said they could, however they're being paid, slush, right? It wasn't just free room and board. They got plenty of compensation. Now they're getting the UCLA quarterback 12, but that's not enough. Now these wonderful plaintiff lawyers are going back in court. Oh, they're going to a Northern California court. How do you think they're going to rule? They say this money doesn't even have to count against that cap you're talking about. You think they're going to get the ruling? When does it stop?
It's never going to stop now because they've blown it. It's a river of money, and all the pigs are drinking from it right now. Look, it's been a mess from the very start. No oversight, no rules, no one to enforce them, and no one to blame except I do. I blame the greedy university presidents, the arrogant ADs, the selfish drunken donors in their luxury suites. And WTF is the College Sports Commission.
Yes.
If that had a flavor, it would be vanilla flavored vanilla. What does
Thank
the
you.
College Sports
They
Commission
have, they have
do?
no power.
Nobody knows. They don't have anything. This is the governing body of college football's money grubbers right now. And this reminds me of when Pablo Escobar built himself a prison. That's exactly what these guys are doing. Like,
Hey, Jim.
you don't have to
this-
punish me.
one of
I'll
the
punish
things-
myself. You don't have to watch me. I'm going to watch myself. This is
One of the
ridiculous.
things
The College
plaintiffs-
Sports Commission? What?
One of the things the plaintiffs' lawyers and now trying to get this additional compensation want, and their clients, the athletes, the college athletes, they want to be, like you said, be paid for interviews. That's going to be real fun when that happens. Do you know
That was the other half of this. Thank you. Yeah, for jumping in.
the last
They're going
group
to get
of
paid.
athletes?
Wait.
The last group of
Peter,
athletes that demanded to be paid. Do you know about this? So we don't. No one, at least in regular journalism, not for on-field interviews, halftime, all that stuff. That's what we're talking about. The last group of athletes that asked to be paid. Oh, this will shock you, Jim. It was the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it was the Drysdale Koufax era. And for a while
That's
they
right.
were, and then the
I was
media
going to say
said,
baseball players.
yeah, it was a different media then. Then they said, we're not doing, because by the way, it was $25, $50 an interview. But they said, we're not doing that anymore. So
Well,
there's good company
I-
for these athletes with the Dodgers.
when I first started in TV, Pete, the first year or two, we would give athletes a gift for appearing on the pregame show that our sponsor provided. And back in the day, it was like, 2 suits from Zach Rial in downtown LA, right? It was something pretty small, but it was payola. We were giving them something to appear. Well, once they
doubt.
started making millions of dollars, there was nothing we could give them. I'm really glad you brought it up because I almost forgot to talk about that part of this whole thing. Is that so now? If you're going to allow media outlets to pay the players and it doesn't count against the school, wait a minute. The school is giving the media outlet the press pass to get on the field and then access to the player, and then they're bringing the player to you. So now if I work for a competing outlet and we're not paying this guy and I don't have the in, I don't get him anymore. I don't get that interview. So now you teach journalism at the collegiate level. Does this approach any ethical concerns in journalism? Because now if I'm paying to get this athlete, am I going to ask him a hard question? Of course not, because then he's not going to come back on. This is so gross that they're going to do this. Think of it in terms of politics, right? I mean, they already play favorites now. The lefties go to CNN, the righties go to Fox, and it's bad enough already. They never get asked tough questions. Nobody ever questions them on their claims. And where's that gotten us? And now you're going to do it in sports. And I get it. It's the toy department. People say it doesn't matter. It actually does matter because journalistic integrity now is out the window. So now you can't believe anything. And all of these guys are paid. They're all suck puppets. They're not showing up until you put some money in their pocket. This is ridiculous.
Well, which goes back to the receive Rabel thing, the biggest transgress. Yeah, she deserved to be effectively fired because of the journalists. I mean, granted, the profession is not held in the same esteem, but this went beyond. I mean, this is, and I teach a class this semester, 28th year, law and ethics. And we did a class this week on protection of sources. Why you give a promise to someone to keep their anonymity because you promise it, they're going to give you some information. But also, if you broke that promise, that goes to your credibility. Who will ever talk to you again? That should still count for something. It still does with some journalistic entities. So this again, where would the ethics be on something like this when you're openly paying for the access and others can't?
Yeah. Are you gonna be down there outbidding the guy next to you with a camera and a microphone? Everybody's got cash out, right? Giving up ATM codes. Look, I've gone off before, so I'm not going to do it here, but I'll put a bow on it by saying college sports, and especially college football, they did this to themselves. They got nervous when the players started to beg for money. And I've said it many times before. These players were being compensated, but the simpletons in the world couldn't see the cash. So they thought there was no intrinsic value in a college education, in room and board, in marketing, in promotions, in weight training and nutrition and connections. How about the fact that every one of these kids gets passed along and gets a degree? They never have to stand in line like you and me and sit in a hall with 300 people with no air conditioning, just suffering through a 3-hour lecture from some pontificating visiting professor who's got a jug of mulled wine and some goat meat on his table. You know, these guys don't have to do any of this, Pete.
Mold wine.
They get so much. And then
Well,
the lucky few all get a chance to go to the NFL or the NBA. And you know, it's like 1 in 25 ever even get to sniff that. They all think they're going to the league. And then they get spit out because they use up their eligibility or they get injured. University kicks them out and they say, the university didn't make me get my degree. Like, where's your accountability? It's ridiculous. The whole thing is a mess. So I've always said this, that college football and the powers that be, they did this to themselves. They were in their limousines and they got nervous because the mob was chasing them. So they rolled down the window and started throwing money out the window, and they expected civil order, and it didn't happen. They let the green genie out of the bottle. They peed down their leg. I used to say college football can suck it. But now after this, after now you want to pay them to do interviews, college football can swallow. That's the way I look at this. I got no sympathy for these guys. And of course, I'll be watching it because you know I love chaos.
Well, on this one, I blame the plaintiff. It's how much is enough? I mean, they're just being pigs here. And it's a Northern California judge. Maybe this guy, because judges can be imperious. Their court, they can make their courts, as we've seen under this administration, judges can do anything until you overturn them, and maybe you can't. I'd love to see this judge say to these plaintiffs' lawyers and look at them and their clients, the college athletes, and say, how much is enough? How much is enough to pay kids while they're in college? They're getting everything. They're getting $10, $15 million or staying 3-4 extra years. No, I'm not going to give you $50 so you can hold ransom over, whatever broadcasting, whatever is set up so they can do an interview with you at Alabama. That does happen. I have no faith it's going to happen here.
We are extra grumpy tonight, so how about this comedic interlude?
There it is. There it is. That's who needs to be the new commissioner of the College Sports Commission, Dick Hammer. Maybe put some teeth in it. I mean, what a ridiculous name. Who put that name together and who voted? Yeah, that's exactly what we do. We're the College Sports Commission. Are you kidding me?
I didn't even know they had that.
I thought you meant who named him Dick Hammer. I didn't know you were talking College Sports Commission.
You know who named him Dick Hammer? His father.
Mrs. Hammer.
This guy's gonna get all the tail he wants. Dick Hammer.
He was born gifted.
So Sam Darnold's grandfather, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Sam Darnold, the Seahawks quarterback's grandfather.
I have to think stage name.
No way. Don't ruin it for me.
Maybe Richard Ham.
And that concludes your comedic interlude. Let's get angry again.
All right, let's have some fun on the last story. This one's great. All right, so this is a hair-raising story. Of course, that's gonna get me to pun incessantly, right? I had like 30 of these, and I'm like, even I can't read all those stupid hair puns. All right, so there's a journeyman boxer named Jarrell Miller. I'd never heard of the guy, and he had been angling for a title shot for 20 years. He's got a pretty good record. He's 27-1-2, and he got close once, but he got nailed right before a big title fight. Hold on, Tommy. We're gonna get to the fight to say, but he got nailed years ago. He got nailed years ago for PEDs. And what did he say the PEDs were? The PEDs were a result of him taking Viagra. Viagra doesn't show up at PEDs, from what I've read. You know, who's gonna buy that? That's like the poppy seed defense, you know. So I just think that's hilarious. Like but he's a boxer, so the brain trust isn't surrounding him. He seems like an affable guy, but he gets punched in the face for a living. Back in February, Miller was prepping for the biggest fight of his career versus a guy named Kingsley. Is it eBay? I don't know how to say it.
Yes.
IBEH. Okay, Kingsley eBay. And a couple of days before, he noticed his hair was thinning. So for some reason, he says he mixed together a concoction of his own making. So, okay. We've already established he has poor judgment. All right. And he puts it on his head and he goes to sleep. And he wakes up the next day and his hair's tingling. So he's walking to the bathroom and he's rubbing his head. And all of a sudden he's got a handful of hair. And it just keeps coming out. Pretty soon he's got a friar tuck going on. He's got hair around the outside, nothing on the top. And he panics because he's going to be on ESPN in 2 days, biggest fight of his career, and now he's bald. So what? Shave your head, say you did it for the fight, and wait for it to grow back.
Get a good night's
But
sleep.
he doesn't do that.
Right.
He doesn't do that. What does he do, Peter? Peter, you're a New York guy. He calls his cousin.
Got to
in
get
Brooklyn,
the hair fixed.
And what does his cousin say? I got a guy. I got a guy.
Got you a toupee guy.
So they jump on the 7 and they go see his guy. And the barber does an amazing job. I mean, he's weaving it together like it's Indian pottery. Like, it's amazing. And he says, he looks up in the mirror, he goes, it looks great, but will it stay on? And the guy says, I kid you not, yes, I use twice as much glue and twice as much tape as I usually do. Now, when I was a kid, my dad wore a toupee. He went bald when he was in the Navy in his 20s, and he wore a toupee because in those days, being bald was a bit embarrassing, and he was young, and he was a lawyer, so he decided I was going to wear a toupee. It looked ridiculous the whole time, and I remember how liberated he was at about 40 when he said, I'm not wearing this thing anymore. No one treated him differently, and by then it was fine to be bald. Everything was, everybody worked through it. So this guy still was claiming to people that he's not bald. Well, then why are you mixing concoctions on your head to try and grow your hair and then just shave it? Okay, so then 2 days later, he goes and he fights Kingsley eBay. And now Tommy, you can roll it. So this happens midway through the fight. Yeah, our boy's in the gold and he takes an uppercut right here and the hair pops straight up. So he eventually the crowd's going crazy. He goes to his corner. He asks his cut man, why is everyone laughing? And he said, because your hair is sticking straight up. The toupee had flipped up like the hood on an Oldsmobile. And so, and now our boy Miller here, this is the best part. He just says, oh, to hell with it. Now I'm embarrassed. And he says he knew he was going to be a viral sensation. So he grabs the hair, chucks it into the crowd. Well, what does that do? Immediately the crowd erupts. They get on his side. He rallies from behind and wins a unanimous decision. And now he's set up for a possible heavyweight title shot. And now I love the guy. He's our new George Foreman.
You couldn't, oldest one, those old sayings, you couldn't write this, right?
Right.
Real life is always more interesting, dramatic, fun than fiction. Could you imagine? Because the guy, like you said, he'd been a good fighter. He had that positive right before a big fight from the Viagra. And it cost him a big fight. He couldn't fight. And he's made some money. He's been a journeyman. But now he's going to fight this Saturday. We record this on Thursday. It's Vegas. He's fighting a Cuban fighter named Lanier Pero. And it's a title eliminator fight. If he wins, he might get a shot. He may very well at Usyk. Who, for those, I love boxing. Nobody follows it anymore. Stupid, whatever, UFC. I love boxing. My father taught me to love boxing. Grew up in all the great Frazier, all that stuff. This guy Usyk is great. He's an undefeated Ukrainian fighter. Probably not going to fight much more. He says maybe 3 fights, undefeated. He might fight. If this guy, our toupee guy, wins on Saturday, he might get a fight with Usyk. What a great story. This is Rocky.
You know what I need, Peter? Peter, I need the New York Post headline on this story. These guys are going to come up with an unbelievable nickname for this dude, and it's going to be great. I'm buying a T-shirt.
So one of the stories, this gets to the heart of it. He goes, "People respect you more," and he's had other setbacks, financial
right.
trouble. And it's hard game boxing. He's made millions, but he's been at it for 20, 25 years. He's Haitian and he's an immigrant guy
Yeah, yeah.
who's never. He
Yeah,
says he's
he's a
never lived
Caribbean
in a
dude. He's got
place.
yeah, mixed Caribbean background. Yeah. He's got it
All
all.
good.
Yeah.
People respect you more when you could admit mistakes. Nobody's ever gotten life completely right the first time. The main thing is you can't quit. He's 39. Jim, Tommy, I'm rooting for this guy.
You have
Who
to.
isn't? How do you not like this guy? Peter, the end of this, I had to do one more. I think he's going to be the heavyweight champion of the world, but maybe that's just a bald-faced lie.
Oh, it's going to be a hair-raising fight.
All right, and on a serious note, Peter, you have the right initials for why boxing is no longer popular. It's not UFC, it's CTE. That's what stopped boxing. Once Muhammad Ali was a quivering mess, that's where people lost their appetite and didn't want to watch Hagler Hearns throw haymakers at each other for 9 minutes. I look back, Aaron Pryor, Alexis Arguello at the Orange Bowl, awesome. Buster Douglas in the Tokyo Dome, shocking the world, putting Tyson down. Ali Frazier, all three of them. Foreman Frazier, Foreman Ali, Norton, all the great fights. That's who's the heavyweight champion of the world. Well, you got to ask 3 questions to get the answer. Which division? Which belts?
This guy, by the way,
organization?
Usyk has all. But can I, Jim,
Right.
real quick? It's a good subject for another time because there is a rejoinder to that. All your examples are correct. I asked my father about that when we both grew up. Tommy would Jim would Boom Boom Mancini, and
Boom Boom Mancini. Yeah, that's right.
Horrible. I remember watching it. We watched the guy get, but the numbers don't add up. More serious injuries in sports like field hockey because boxers padded gloves, right? Now more precaution. And my father always said, it's different in football and other sports. You don't see that big hit collision coming. In boxing, the guy is right in front of you. So there is a opposite argument.
And UFC, of course, guys get knocked out on the spot, but usually in UFC, it's one punch and then a couple of pounds to the face, and they pull them off, and that's the end. Where in boxing, a guy can get pummeled for 12 rounds, and by the end of it, Boom Boom Mancini, the guy's brain damage, swelling, can't save him, and he dies. And nobody has the appetite for that. So, I used to love boxing as a kid too. I can't really watch it anymore. I don't watch UFC because it's pretty violent. I don't enjoy watching people get hurt. There's a few people I'd like to watch get hurt.
I kind of felt like that was
it's a short list, and I'm a pretty shallow and selfish two-dimensional man.
Next week, who would we like to see in the ring?
We'll make a list.
Destroying each other.
All right, that's gonna do it. I didn't think this one would go this long, but that was some good stuff tonight. The internet, so we're not out of time.
I went Butch Cassidy. There was no excuse for that.
We are at it. That was a great one. Yeah. Who are those guys? What a great movie. So good. George Roy Hill, genius.
2 hours on Vrabel and Rossini.
You know what?
It's a thing as well.
Peter, I had planned a huge segment on the WNBA full team coverage. But then, like every other straight male in America, I forgot. I forgot it was a league. I forgot. Whatever. All right. So for Weitzner, for Catlin, for Dick Hammer, for Mike Vrabel's wife's new Range Rover, the Shake Shack Sleuth, those ball-gargling football geniuses, and the hair pie from Miller. Wow. Got it.
Hair pie.
I'm Jim Watson.
Go Miller on Saturday.
We'll try to be back again next week. Tommy, play us out with something that won't get us monetized. What? Good luck with that.